now, before we even get into numbers or programs, I want you to pause for just a second and think about your life. Think about the grocery bill that keeps climbing. Think about rent, gas, prescriptions, utilities, and those quiet moments where you sit there doing math in your head, wondering how much longer your check is going to stretch. If you're on SSI, SSDI, or Social Security, this video isn't just news. This is about you, your family, and your wallet. And what's happening right now could change the conversation in ways most people aren't fully talking about yet. Across the country, millions of Americans are feeling squeezed from every direction. Prices didn't come back down the way anyone hoped. Savings accounts have thinned out. Emergency funds vanished. And for many households relying on fixed income, every single month has turned into a balancing act. You already know that feeling, deciding what gets paid now and what has to wait. That stress lives with you, and it doesn't disappear when the news cycle moves on. Now here's why today matters. For the first time in a while, two major ideas are colliding at the same time. Talk of additional financial relief and ongoing increases tied to Social Security programs. Some are calling it a possible stimulus moment, others are calling it an adjustment. But for people like you, labels don't matter. What matters is whether more money shows up, when it shows up, and who actually qualifies. This is where things get confusing and honestly, frustrating. Headlines are flying. Social media is full of half-truths, exaggerated claims, and flat-out misinformation. One post says checks are coming tomorrow. Another says nothing is happening at all. Meanwhile, you're left wondering what's real, what's noise, and what you should actually plan for. That's why this video exists. Not hype, not fear, not false promises. This is about clearly explaining what's being discussed, how SSI, SSDI, and Social Security fit into it, and what you should realistically expect, without sugarcoating anything. Because when money is tight, bad information can hurt just as much as no information. Stay with me, because the next sections break this down step by step. And by the end, you'll understand why this moment matters, what's possible, what's still uncertain, and how to protect yourself and your family moving forward. Why stimulus plus increase is being talked about together. Usually, when you hear the word stimulus, it feels separate from Social Security. Stimulus checks sound temporary. Social Security sounds permanent. But right now, those two ideas are being discussed in the same breath. And that's not an accident. It's happening because economic pressure hasn't eased for everyday Americans, especially those living on fixed incomes. Here's the reality you already feel. Even with past increases, benefits haven't kept up with real-world costs. The math just doesn't work the way it used to. Groceries don't care that your benefit only went up a certain percentage. Rent doesn't pause because inflation slowed on paper. Your wallet feels the difference every single day. Because of that, lawmakers, economists, and policy groups are under growing pressure, not from headlines, but from people, from seniors, from people with disabilities, from families relying on SSDI who are doing everything right and still falling behind. That pressure is why discussions aren't just about future adjustments anymore. They're about short-term relief and long-term stability at the same time. When people talk about stimulus plus increase, what they're really talking about is this: can immediate financial help exist alongside ongoing benefit changes? Can relief come without disrupting eligibility? And can it actually reach the people who need it most? Those questions matter because past programs didn't always hit evenly. Some people received help quickly, others waited, some were excluded entirely. That history is shaping today's conversations, whether officials admit it or not. And here's something important. Nothing moves fast in government until pressure becomes unavoidable. That's when discussions suddenly accelerate. That's when proposals that once felt impossible start sounding reasonable. You may not see it on the surface, but behind closed doors, the financial strain on millions of Americans is impossible to ignore forever. At the same time, Social Security increases aren't random. They're tied to formulas, data, and economic conditions. But those formulas don't always reflect lived experience. That disconnect is becoming louder, and it's why many are asking whether adjustments alone are enough. So when you hear stimulus plus increase, don't think of it as a guarantee. Think of it as a signal that the current system is under strain, a signal that conversations are shifting, and a signal that your situation, yes, your situation is part of the national discussion, even if it doesn't always feel that way. And in the next section, we're going to talk specifically about what this could mean for SSI recipients, because their situation is often the most misunderstood and the most vulnerable. What SSI recipients need to pay attention to right now. If you're on SSI, you already know how fragile the system can feel. One small change, a deposit, a gift, a misunderstanding, can trigger stress, reviews, or fear of losing benefits. That's why whenever stimulus or increases are mentioned, SSI recipients often feel both hope and anxiety at the same time. Let's be clear, SSI is different. It's needs-based. That means income limits, asset rules, and strict eligibility guidelines. So when financial relief is discussed, the biggest question becomes, will it count against you? Will it reduce your benefit? Will it create problems later? Those concerns are not irrational. They're based on experience. In the past, some forms of assistance caused confusion or delays. Others were excluded from counting as income, but only after clarification. That uncertainty is why accurate information matters so much for SSI households. Right now, conversations around financial relief are happening with that history in mind. There's increased awareness that helping SSI recipients shouldn't punish them. But awareness doesn't automatically mean protection. That's why you need to watch details carefully, not just headlines. If additional payments or relief measures are introduced, how they're classified matters more than the amount itself. Is it counted as income? Is it excluded? Is it temporary? Those distinctions decide whether help actually helps or quietly creates stress. On the increase side, SSI adjustments tend to feel smaller because the base amount is already limited. That makes even minor changes meaningful. When your budget is tight, a little extra can mean groceries for a week, medication without delay, or less reliance on credit. But here's the key point. No legitimate program will require you to pay fees, sign up through unofficial websites, or secure your benefit through messages or calls. If anyone tells you otherwise, that's not help. That's a red flag. SSI recipients need to stay informed, patient, and cautious. Hope is reasonable. Panic is not. The system moves slowly, but clarity always comes before action. And those who stay grounded in facts are the ones best positioned to protect their benefits. Next, we're talking about SSDI, a group often left out of the conversation, even though the financial pressure is just as real. SSDI and the hidden financial pressure no one talks about. If you're on SSDI, your situation is often misunderstood. People assume disability benefits somehow shield you from financial strain, but you know the truth. SSDI is earned, yes, but it's still fixed. And when prices rise faster than adjustments, the gap shows up fast. For SSDI recipients, the idea of stimulus plus increase hits differently. You're not dealing with asset limits the same way SSI recipients are, but you're still dealing with long-term cost increases that don't pause just because your income is stable. Medical costs alone can quietly drain budgets. Copays, equipment, transportation, things that aren't always fully covered but are absolutely necessary. That's why even small increases matter, and why short-term relief can make a real difference. One thing SSDI recipients should understand is that discussions around relief often lump programs together in headlines, but eligibility rules differ. That doesn't mean SSDI is excluded, it means details matter. Historically, SSDI recipients have often qualified for broader relief efforts, but timing and implementation vary. Another point that rarely gets talked about: SSDI households often support others, a spouse, a child, a family member. Fixed income doesn't mean isolated income. When your benefit is the foundation of a household, every adjustment affects more than just you. That's why it's important to separate rumor from reality. Real programs come with official announcements, clear criteria, and direct communication. Anything else is speculation, and speculation doesn't pay bills. SSDI recipients should also be cautious of too good to be true promises. No one can expedite your benefit, no one can unlock hidden payments, and no legitimate source will pressure you to act immediately without written confirmation. Awareness is power here, not panic. And in the next section, we're talking about traditional Social Security recipients, including retirees, because their role in this conversation is bigger than many people realize. Retirees, Social Security, and the real cost of getting older. If you're retired and living on Social Security, you already know something younger generations don't fully understand yet. Stability doesn't mean comfort. It just means predictability. And when prices rise faster than benefits, predictability turns into pressure. Social Security was designed to be a foundation, not a luxury. But over time, that foundation has been stretched thinner. Housing, healthcare, and daily expenses don't adjust themselves to benefit formulas. They move when they want, and usually upward. That's why increases matter so much to retirees. They're not bonuses. They're corrections. They're attempts to keep up with reality. And when talk of additional relief enters the picture, it's because the gap has become impossible to ignore. Many retirees feel invisible in economic conversations. You've worked, you've contributed, and now you're expected to make it work no matter what the market does. That frustration is real, and it's shared by millions. At the same time, retirees are often targeted by misinformation, fake checks, phony enrollment sites, scammers who prey on uncertainty. That's why clarity is protection. If relief or changes happen, they will be communicated through official channels. They won't require urgency on your part, and they won't threaten your existing benefit. The real question isn't whether retirees deserve help. That's obvious. The question is how systems adapt when economic reality shifts faster than policy. And that brings us to the big picture: why all of this is happening now, and what forces are pushing these conversations forward. Why this moment feels different than before. This moment feels different because the pressure is broader. It's not isolated to one group. It's seniors, people with disabilities, caregivers, and working families all feeling the same squeeze. That kind of widespread strain changes the tone of national conversations. When economic stress becomes normalized, it stops being background noise and starts becoming political reality. That's when ideas that once felt unlikely start getting airtime. Another reason this moment matters is timing. Economic data, public sentiment, and policy cycles are colliding. That doesn't guarantee outcomes, but it increases the chances of movement. Still, movement doesn't mean speed, and it doesn't mean certainty, which is why staying informed without overreacting is critical. The loudest voices online are rarely the most accurate. Real change is quieter, slower, and documented. That's why understanding the process matters, and why the next section focuses on what you should realistically expect, not what you might hope for overnight. Realistic expectations versus viral promises. Let's reset expectations. No one should be budgeting money that hasn't been officially announced. Hope is fine. Planning based on rumors is dangerous. If changes happen, they will follow a sequence: discussion, proposal, clarification, and implementation. Skipping steps is how people get disappointed. That doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means patience is part of protection. Understanding this timeline helps you stay grounded and avoid emotional whiplash. And now, let's talk about what you can do right now to protect yourself and your household. How to protect your benefits and your peace of mind. First, ignore unofficial sources demanding action. Second, rely on verified information. Third, keep your records updated. Most stress comes from uncertainty. Information reduces that stress. You don't need to chase every headline. You need clarity, not chaos. And clarity comes from trusted updates, not viral panic. Why staying informed is a financial strategy. Information isn't entertainment when your income is fixed. It's strategy. Knowing what's real helps you plan, prepare, and respond calmly. That's why following credible updates matters more now than ever. Your future doesn't improve through guessing. It improves through awareness. Hope, urgency, and what comes next. Here's the truth. Nothing changes overnight, but nothing changes at all if people stop paying attention. This moment matters because pressure is building, and history shows that sustained attention leads to action. Your life, your family, and your wallet deserve accurate information. Staying informed isn't optional anymore. It's essential. That's why following updates, staying engaged, and watching future videos matters. Not for clicks, but for your financial future. Because when change happens, the people who understand it first are the ones best prepared to benefit. Stay alert, stay informed, and stay with us, because this story isn't over yet.